So let's turn to Lesson 14, which asks, what was the Federalist position in the debate about ratification? So what strategies did the Federalists use to get ratification?
The Federalist strategies were logistical and they were rhetorical. Here's an example of logistical strategies. In Pennsylvania, supporters of the Constitution, many of them in and around Philadelphia, realized that opposition to the Constitution was heavier in Western Pennsylvania. They also knew that people from Western Pennsylvania would need longer to travel to Philadelphia for ratifying convention, so they managed to call a ratifying convention as quickly as possible and to get the Constitution ratified before opponents in the western part of the state had a chance to mobilize and select delegates to come to a constitutional convention or a ratifying convention in the eastern part of the state. The flip side of that is what happens in Virginia, where the opponents of the Constitution at the convention, which is in June of 1788, say, we would like to debate this Constitution clause by clause. But the opponents were in fact playing into the Federalist hands because James Madison was one of the delegates at the ratifying convention in Virginia, and if they were going to debate the Constitution clause by clause, he knew every clause better than anybody else in the world. So, for various reasons, the Federalists found ways within individual ratifying conventions where it was going to be contentious to try to make it work. The rhetorical strategies happened in the form of dozens, even hundreds of published essays. As with the Anti-Federalists, supporters of the Constitution wrote about the reasons they supported it. The most famous of these essays are the 85 essays that we call the Federalist Papers that were written by Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay under the pseudonym of Publius, and they were published in New York, specifically addressed to the citizens of New York, where the ratification they knew was going to be very tough, and those essays were then reprinted around other parts of the country, but there were also supporters of the Constitution writing essays elsewhere. This was an election that took place very much in the media of the day, in this case the press, as well as in coffee houses and taverns where people were debating and reading the newspapers.